crafty friends, it's Jess for another Mint Monday with Jess Crafts. For today's card, I am making a birthday card with the brand new A Pirate's Life stamp set. I wanted to start by creating a fun ocean background, and I'm going to be using some Perfect Pearls Mist and Color Burst to create this background. There are a lot of fun pirate themed stamps in this set, including the pirate ship and two cute little pirates, one of which I'll be using today. There's also a lot of fun accessories in this stamp set and some great sayings, but today I'm going to be using the Happy Birthday stamp set. I find that I always have a purpose for a birthday card, and I think I have someone in mind who this card will be perfect for. I am starting with Canson 140 pound watercolor cardstock, and I just spritzed some of the blue Perfect Pearls all over it. And once I had the surface wet from the Perfect Pearls, I started tapping on some color bursts. I am using the ultramarine blue and the turquoise color bursts for the card. I'm just tapping it around randomly on the card, trying to generally fill the entire space of the card. With color bursts, they're water reactive, and so I am depending on the Perfect Pearls to react with the color burst and create this initial bit of blue for the background. So I don't need to spray any extra water on it. The Perfect Pearls being wet will be enough. And I find that with the color burst, I like to stop and dry it sometimes to see where it's coming, where it's going. Like, is it spread enough? That sort of thing. I don't want to just apply all of the water at once, because then everything just sort of blends together and it doesn't look as interesting. It doesn't have those little spots of heavy areas or lighter areas, and it just kind of all becomes one big bland background. So I suggest stopping and heating it and then possibly applying more. I have the Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer that I like to use sometimes when I want to create a really wide, fine mist. However, if you want a little bit more of a concentrated mist, you can experiment with different spray bottles, or experiment with using the trigger in a different way on the distress bottle, as sometimes you'll get a different spray of water, and the direction that you spray affects the color burst. I am also adding more of the Perfect Pearls, because the Perfect Pearls do have a blue color to it. They're not just clear. They are adding a little bit of color and filling in the background a little bit. As mentioned before, I do want to get the background completely colored, so I'm going to continue to layer and layer the color bursts and Perfect Pearls till I've completely covered the background and made something interesting. I decided that for the sand, it would be fun just to cut some sandpaper. That would give a really good look of sand and be easy to do. I find these big packs of sandpaper at the dollar store. What's great about them is they tend to include several different grains of sand, from the super fine to the much heavier, and so depending on what kind of look you're trying to get for your card, you can use whichever one works best for you. I find that the finer the grain, the easier it is to stamp on, so that might be something to consider if you want it to be able to stamp your sentiment like I'm going to do later. You're going to want to choose one of the slightly finer grains of sand. However, because I'm going to use my MISTI, it's going to make sure that I get a great impression. So I'm stamping the pirate ship onto the background, and I thought about stamping the sentiment, but I realized that I want to keep it balanced, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment later. With the pirate ship, I'm stamping it directly onto the background because I'm going to be doing some fussy cutting and covering this image with the fussy cut pieces to create the pirate ship background. I will be stamping the bottom of the pirate ship on some Copic quality cardstock and coloring it in with a few different browns. I want to create the look of a little bit of dimension by making the edges darker and following the lines that are in the stamped image. When I attach my sandpaper, I'm just going to use some heavy-duty double-sided tape because it's a little bit heavier, especially on the watercolor paper. They're both heavy paper, and I want everything to stick down flat and stay stuck. So I find that this Elizabeth Crafts tape works well for pretty much everything, but once it is down, it stays stuck. So do keep that in mind. You can't really lift it up. It doesn't have any sort of removable features. And I find it easier to use a piece of sandpaper or a piece of paper that's a little bit larger than my background and just trim it off as opposed to trying to match it up directly. Once I have the sandhill on there, I'm ready to move on with my design and do some coloring and fussy cutting. You see here that I have the pirate ship fussy cut out and the pirate flag, but I also have the sails. And I didn't want to have to fussy cut the wooden post that the sails are on, or the flagpole. So I just took some Copic black marker, or the Memento black marker would work as well, and colored in those posts. I also used the Memento marker to go around the edges of my fussy cutting, because when you use a thicker cardstock, sometimes you can see a bit of the white on the edges when you fussy cut, and it just cleans up the lines. There was a little bit of the wooden post sticking out in between all those sails, and I didn't want to cut them out individually. So I cut around the whole group of sails and then just took the black marker again to that top. If you wanted something other than black, you might choose to fussy cut it, but I just felt like it wasn't really worth it. It takes a lot of time to fussy cut those little details, and so just having the black there worked out well for me. Once I had that finished, I'm also ready to stamp a little pirate and color him. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the Copic coloring just because there's a lot of great tutorials out there, and these are actually really small images, so it's difficult to tell any dimension in them. However, you can get the look of dimension on the pirate ship, like I said before, by coloring the two edges darker, and the same thing with the little boy pirate, just adding some shadows where his clothes meet his body, or creating that round effect by making the stripes darker on each side. To finish off the card, I am going to add a black mat around it to pull out some of the black colors in the pirate's clothing and the pirate ship, and then add a little treasure map as well for a bit of extra detail. I was able to adhere these with multimedia matte onto the sandpaper. However, you do have to put a little bit pressure on it and keep it down for a while. So I just stuck my Misty magnets on top of it. And that is it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials featuring Mint Owl Studio stamps, be sure to just subscribe to the channel and check out the links in the video description below to purchase these products or to join us over on Facebook. Thanks for watching. Bye.